I never thought I'd be sharing this story, but here we are. My name's Alex, a 38-year-old software engineer living what I thought was the quintessential suburban dream. A loving wife named Jessica, 2 energetic kids, and a golden retriever named Max. Jessica was a stay-at-home mom, dedicating her time to raising our children and managing the household. I always admired her for that. It's not an easy job. One Friday, I decided to surprise my family by coming home early from work. I'd wrapped up a major project ahead of schedule, and I figured we could start the weekend with a family movie night. As I pulled into the driveway, I noticed an unfamiliar silver sedan parked across the street. Odd, but perhaps a neighbor had guests. I walked in through the front door, expecting to hear the usual chaos of kids playing and Jessica bustling around. Instead, the house was unusually quiet. "Jess? Kids?" I called out. No response. Maybe they were out for a walk with Max. I headed to the kitchen to grab a snack, and that's when I saw it. A half-empty wine bottle and 2 glasses on the counter. One had Jessica's favorite shade of lipstick smudged on the rim. My heart skipped a beat. Trying to stay calm, I reasoned that maybe her friend Sarah had come over. Just then, I heard muffled laughter coming from upstairs. My curiosity piqued. I quietly ascended the stairs. The laughter grew louder, interspersed with hushed whispers. It was coming from our bedroom. I approached the slightly ajar door and peeked through the crack. There she was, my wife in the arms of a man I didn't recognize. They were giggling like teenagers, completely oblivious to the world. My stomach churned, and a wave of nausea hit me. I felt like I'd been punched in the gut. Instead of barging in like a madman, I took a deep breath and tiptoed back down the stairs. My mind was racing. How long had this been going on? Who was this guy? More importantly, what was I going to do about it? I left the house quietly and sat in my car, gripping the steering wheel so hard my knuckles turned white. Anger and betrayal coursed through me, but I knew I needed to keep a clear head, especially for the kids' sake. Over the weekend, I pretended everything was normal. Jessica acted as if nothing had happened, which only fueled my resolve. If she could lie so effortlessly, she needed to be taught a lesson. But I didn't want a messy confrontation. I wanted something more poetic. I spent the next week devising a plan. First, I needed evidence. Being a tech guy has its perks. I set up discrete cameras in common areas of the house, not the bedroom, as that would be illegal, citing home security concerns. Jessica didn't suspect a thing. She even praised me for being so safety-conscious. It didn't take long to catch her in the act. While I was at work, she entertained her mystery man in our living room, our kitchen, even the backyard. Each rendezvous was meticulously recorded and stored securely on a cloud server she didn't know existed. Now, for the unconventional part of my plan. Jessica had always been passionate about art. She painted as a hobby, and had dreams of opening her own gallery someday. She'd even started taking online courses to improve her skills. So, I decided to help her achieve that dream in my own way. I created a fake email account posing as a representative from a prestigious local art society. I sent her an invitation to submit her work for an upcoming showcase featuring emerging artists. The email gushed about her unique perspective and emotional depth, playing right into her aspirations. Jessica was ecstatic. "Alex, you won't believe this! The Metro Art Society wants to feature my paintings!" she exclaimed, her eyes sparkling with excitement. "That's amazing, Jess. I always knew your talent would get recognized," I replied, forcing a sincere smile. She threw herself into preparing for the showcase, spending hours in her studio. Meanwhile, I was busy setting up the next phase of my plan. I booked a small gallery space under the guise of the Art Society and arranged for an opening night that Jessica would never forget. On the day of the showcase, Jessica was a bundle of nerves and excitement. She invited friends, family, even some of the moms from the kids' school. I offered to handle the logistics so she could focus on her big night. Little did she know, I'd already arranged the exhibit to include not just her paintings but also some special editions. As guests arrived, they admired her artwork, sipping wine and making small talk. Jessica was in her element, glowing with pride. Then, midway through the evening, the lights dimmed slightly, and a projector began displaying images on the main wall. "What's this?" Jessica whispered to me, surprised. "A little surprise presentation," I said, clinking my glass against hers. The slideshow started innocently enough photos of Jessica painting, candid family moments, shots of the kids. She smiled, touched by the gesture. But then the images shifted. Photos of her and the mystery man cuddling on our couch, holding hands at a cafe, stealing kisses in the park. Gasps filled the room, murmurs swept through the crowd. Jessica's face went pale as she realized what was happening. "Alex, what have you done?" she hissed, eyes wide with panic. "Just showcasing your emotional depth, dear," I replied calmly. She bolted from the gallery, tears streaming down her face. The room was abuzz with shock and whispers. I took a sip of my wine and then addressed the crowd. "Thank you all for coming. I believe this concludes our evening." Over the next few days, the fallout was intense. Friends and family called non-stop, some offering support, others scolding me for making such a public scene. But I felt a strange sense of satisfaction. Jessica had humiliated me in private. I merely returned the favor on a grander scale. But I wasn't done yet. I filed for divorce, citing adultery and presenting the mountain of evidence I'd gathered. Our state's laws weren't particularly forgiving toward infidelity, especially when it came to dividing assets and custody arrangements. I made sure the proceedings were swift and left little room for negotiation. Meanwhile, I reached out to the mystery man's wife. Turns out, he was married too. I felt she deserved to know. She was devastated, of course, but grateful for the information. Misery loves company, I suppose. Jessica tried reaching out to me multiple times, leaving voicemails filled with apologies and pleas for forgiveness. I ignored them. My focus was on the kids and rebuilding my life. One afternoon, as I was picking the kids up from school, I bumped into an old college friend, Laura. We hadn't seen each other in years, but we'd kept in touch sporadically on social media. She was recently divorced, having gone through her own set of marital woes. We grabbed coffee, catching up on life. It felt good to talk to someone who understood what I was going through. One coffee led to several more, and before I knew it, we were seeing each other regularly. Jessica got wind of this and showed up at my doorstep one evening. "You moved on that quickly?" she snapped, jealousy flashing in her eyes. "Ah, Jessica, nice to see you too," I said, leaning casually against the doorframe. "This isn't funny, Alex. We have a family. We can fix this," she pleaded. I raised an eyebrow. "Funny. I recall giving you that opportunity when we had a family. You seem to prefer extracurricular activities." She looked down, tears welling up. "I made a mistake. Please, for the kids." "The kids are fine, Jess. In fact, they're doing better now than when their mother was sneaking around behind their father's back." She opened her mouth to respond, but then thought better of it. Without another word, she turned and walked away. Life moved on. The divorce was finalized, and I got primary custody of the kids. Jessica moved into a small apartment and had visitation rights every other weekend. Her dreams of opening an art gallery fizzled out. Word of the gallery incident had spread, tarnishing her reputation in the local art community. As for me, things were looking up. Work was going well, and my relationship with Laura was becoming something more than just a casual fling. One evening, as we sat on the patio watching the sunset, she turned to me. "You know, I heard about what happened at Jessica's art showcase," she said cautiously. "Oh?" I replied, sipping my drink. "While I can't condone public humiliation, I have to admit it's a pretty epic move," she said with a sly smile. I chuckled. Maybe not my finest moment, but it felt right at the time. She placed her hand on mine. "Just promise me one thing." "What's that?" "Next time you plan an elaborate scheme, make sure I'm in on it." I laughed, feeling lighter than I had in months. Deal. Weeks turned into months, and life settled into a new normal. Jessica attempted to repair her relationship with the kids, but they were hesitant. They'd seen more than I realized. Missed pickups, forgotten school events, all while she was distracted by her affairs. One day my son Ethan asked me, "Dad, why doesn't Mom come around much anymore?" I took a deep breath. "Well, buddy, sometimes adults make choices that have consequences. Your mom and I both love you very much, but we're figuring things out separately." He seemed to ponder this for a moment. Is that why Laura comes over a lot now? Yes, she's a good friend who's been there for us. He nodded thoughtfully. I like her. She makes awesome pancakes. She does, doesn't she? I smiled. Meanwhile, Jessica's life was unraveling. The mystery man's wife had filed for divorce, taking him to the cleaners. Jessica found herself ostracized from social circles, and her attempts to revive her art career were met with polite refusals. She showed up unannounced one last time. Alex, I need help, she said, her eyes hollow. I looked at her, a mixture of pity and indifference washing over me. Help with what? I can't pay my rent. I can't find work. I don't know what to do, she admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. I sighed. Jessica, I supported you for years, both financially and emotionally. You made choices that led you here. Please, for old time's sake, she begged. I thought for a moment. I'll help you this once, for the kids' sake. But understand this is the last time. I wrote her a check to cover a couple of months' rent. She thanked me profusely, but I could tell she knew it was a hollow victory. As she left, Laura walked in. Everything okay? She asked, sensing the tension. Yeah, just tying up loose ends, I replied. Laura smiled knowingly. Good, because I was thinking we should take the kids to the beach this weekend. Sounds perfect, I said, pulling her into a warm embrace. In the end, I realized that holding on to anger only weighed me down. While my revenge served its purpose, it was ultimately moving forward and finding happiness that brought me peace. So there you have it, Reddit. That's how I turned my cheating wife's life upside down without breaking any laws or stooping to her level of deceit. Sometimes the best revenge is living well and letting karma do the rest.